We are now talking to SB Nation's Blogging the Boys editor-in-chief, RJ Ochoa. RJ, what's going on, bud?
It's great to be with you guys. Contrary to popular belief, I'm in a stellar mood. I was able to secure a PS5 finally over the weekend, so I've got that going for me. But outside of that, it's a little bit grim as far as entertainment is concerned.
That will definitely sell to all the Cowboy haters, that's for sure. But why don't we get into your Cowboys? By the way, how are you feeling? The last time we had you on, COVID was going on. How are you and your family with that?
All good. Thank God. Everything's great. My wife and I have an almost 10-month-old son.
Congratulations.
That's been thank you. It's been a really, really fun almost year. Just kind of watching him, learn and grow and become a little person. And so our family's really full. And so everything else just kind of falls at the wayside when you put it into perspective that way.
So why don't we get into your Cowboys? Because there's a lot of interesting takes I've been hearing all over social media, especially the Cowboy haters that are absolutely enjoying this because Dak is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. As we know, Jerry Jones thinks he's only going to be out for 4 weeks, but Jerry Jones thinks he's a doctor, I guess, or whatever he calls himself. But obviously, we've seen some stupid things that have come out of Jerry Jones's mouth over the offseason. So why don't we get into it? How bad is Dak Prescott's finger, one? And two, how long does Jerry Jones really think he's going to be out for?
Well, I'm not a doctor either. So obviously, my medical diagnosis should be trusted no more than Jerry's in that sense. In situations like this, I think you have to trust the medical professionals and the voices of the national big-time insiders and everyone, every prominent insider on the local beat, every prominent insider on the national beat, we live in such a great day and age where there's so many like Twitter doctors and I mean actual doctors, like actual PhDs, not, people playing doctor, are able to kind of analyze and assess and in their own way diagnose what's going on. And so, it just 6 to 8 weeks is 99 out of 100 people believe that. The 100th is seemingly Jerry Jones. 6 to 8 weeks also lines up, most logically with the Cowboys schedule. If it did wind up being on the longer end of that spectrum, it would put Dak Prescott out through the bye, so you can actually give him a little bit longer time, kind of formulate your plan from a football perspective. So I would guess that. My own personal read on the situation is I don't think we see Dak Prescott until the Cowboys go to Lambeau Field after their bye. As far as what Jerry thinks, there was no mention of 4 weeks until Jerry does 2 weekly radio hits on the home of the Cowboys 105.3 The Fan, because why wouldn't he? But as a content creator, I'm certainly grateful for it. But in his first one on Tuesday morning, a few hours before that, the first mention of 4 weeks popped up, and it was Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. Tom is awesome, does an amazing job. I think it's worth mentioning, if you recall the McCarthy Project specials that were airing, Tom Pelissero was the person who did that, who went to McCarthy's barn and put all that together. Tom Pelissero last year had a 1-on-2 interview exclusively with Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott at a training camp. So somebody who's clearly very close to the Cowboys was the first person to report that 4-week timeline, and Jerry Jones reiterated it himself. It would be a grave mistake to do that, to rush Dak back. I don't know how the Cowboys have a record that's kind of worth standing or salvaging, if you will, even 4 weeks from now. It looks, it's our pets' heads are falling off. This is DEFCON 1.
So how do you think when he does come back, whenever he comes back, that he will come back? Because he also had the ankle injury a couple years ago, too. Now having the hand injury, thumb injury. How do you think he will come back? And do the Cowboys have to ease him in, or do you think they go full throttle, depending on what their record is?
I think it would have to be full throttle. If you look at their schedule, I don't know if you guys have it in front of you. But
I have it right here.
So we all think they're losing to the Bengals, so they're 0-2. I think if we're being generous, they split the 2 divisional games after that between the Giants and the Commanders. That puts them at 1-3. They're losing out west to the Rams. They're 1-4. They're losing to the Eagles on Sunday night. They're 1-5. And then again, I'll be generous and say they split those Lions and Bears games. So they're 2-6. They're 2-6, and who knows what the division looks like. Maybe the Eagles are running away with it. Maybe the Commanders have kind of found their footing. Obviously 1-0 so far as well. Everybody is. So I don't know how they wouldn't rush him back, but it is difficult, and I don't mean to make excuses for Dak. It is difficult to properly evaluate him. I don't know that the Dak injury is as devastating to people in the non-obvious ways, just because it went predictably bad. I mean, if you follow anybody who creates Cowboys content, I'm sure you guys have talked about this. It was going to be this way. I mean, the way they built their team, their offensive line was shoddy, their receiver group was really shallow, and so what a big surprise. Dak Prescott was running for his life, having to throw into triple coverage, and so he looked really bad. I mean, it was among the worst games that he's ever played as the quarterback of the Cowboys. It's the first game since last season, and the second half of last season was really bad for him. I mean, we're a long ways removed from him playing some elite football. I don't know if that means that the elite quarterback that he once used to be is gone forever. I don't know if the offense and the creativity and the talent around him has just withered. I mean, this isn't just the quarterback's hurt. They are in a very, toxic sort of place as an overall team right now.
As everybody knows, we are talking to SB Nation's blogging and the boys editor-in-chief, RJ Ochoa. So we're looking at quarterbacks that could be available. And I'm looking at a list right now. There's a name of Cam Newton out there. Maybe he's expendable quarterback that you can bring in that could possibly help you for the next couple of weeks. I'm slowly looking at this list of, we know Robert Griffin is now working for ESPN, so that's not going to help. Maybe Tyrod Taylor reaching out to the Giants. I don't know if the Giants are going to help the Dallas Cowboys, but Tyrod Taylor is a formidable quarterback that could play the position. Ryan Fitzpatrick is another one. Do you see them bringing in a quarterback? I've been hearing Colin Kaepernick's name, too, which is crazy. And that's something Jerry Jones would do, something crazy. So is there any quarterback that you have heard through the grapevine where maybe they decide, hey, maybe we'll bring this guy in. He'll help us out for the next couple of weeks?
I don't think so. I mean, the party line is Cooper Rush won his only start for the Dallas Cowboys.
Please.
And you guys might remember that game. It was a Sunday Night Football game a year ago against the Minnesota Vikings. And I think, I'm a big believer in the Vikings personally this year. The greatness that we saw from the Vikings a week ago is proof positive of how Mike Zimmer trapped that team for so long. And so, Cooper Rush didn't beat the Vikings a year ago on Sunday Night Football. Mike Zimmer held them back, and Cooper Rush was just able to kind of, pull some strings and hang on for the ride. But, you could argue that winning that game has served to the detriment of the Cowboys because they have talked themselves into Cooper Rush because he won that game. This is a position that they forever don't take seriously. I love the way a lot of teams handle backup quarterback. I loved that the Eagles traded for Gardner Minshew a year ago. I loved that the Buffalo Bills signed Mitchell Trubisky a year ago. I applauded the Cowboys 2 years ago when they signed Andy Dalton. That's the archetype I think you want. The young guy who's been there, done that, has some starts, obviously has seen it at the NFL level, just isn't a bona fide starter anymore. You cannot, rely on a lottery ticket. That's what the Cowboys are doing. They're relying on Cooper Rush, somebody who this regime cut before they signed Andy Dalton actually 2 years ago. He found his way back, and they're going to stick this thing out. I mean, consider that after Tyron Smith got hurt, I mean, that was already a mess because it was predictable and they had no depth because their swing tackle options had been so poor in the preseason. It took them 2 weeks to sign Jason Peters. I mean, you would have thought that even after everything they didn't do at tackle, that the day Tyron Smith got hurt, they would have said, okay, white flags up. We got to do it. We have to bring in somebody. We're up against it. We painted ourselves into a corner. No, they waited 2 weeks till Monday of last week was when they officially signed him. And so, I mean, they have no intentions of doing anything here. Cooper Rush is their guy. And then when it doesn't work, they'll say he has to step up. He has to do more. CeeDee Lamb has to step up. Zeke Elliott has to step up. It's everybody else's fault.
One of our Cowboys fans was actually mad they drafted CeeDee Lamb and wanted to draft Xavier McKinney. So maybe the Giants could trade Tyrod Taylor and McKinney for CeeDee Lamb. What do you think about that? Maybe they'll save their quarterback
Never
situation.
going to happen.
I know it's never going to happen, but who knows? The NFC East does crazy things. So I wanted to ask you now about Mike McCarthy specifically because his days back to Green Bay, too, he's always been a pass-first guy using a lot of the three receiver sets, and now they're kind of in the situation where they're going to have to do the opposite now. They have two running backs that are definitely capable. Obviously, Zeke's not what he was, but do you think that'll have to be the adjustment to try to play more like 2016, where Dak was kind of more of he was rookie of the year, but he still was more of a game manager type, like above average, but not great quarterback?
By the way, Zeke should have been rookie of the year that year.
I think so too, but nevertheless, do you think they have to go back to that style, or do you think they have to maybe try to adjust with McCarthy?
Well, first, Zeke was Offensive Player of the Year, and he was a rookie.
Yes.
So, it's one of those weird things, the way the NFL hands out awards.
Doesn't make sense.
Right. I mean, you would think, but their offensive line is banged up. I mean, Tyler Smith, to his credit, played well at left tackle last week. Awesome, cool. But Tyler Smith was supposed to be this team's starting left guard before Tyron Smith got hurt. So Tyron Smith gets hurt. Tyler Smith has to kick out to left tackle. So they promote Connor McGovern, who was supposed to be their highest point of interior depth. Connor McGovern suffers a high ankle sprain against the Buccaneers. So now they're down to their third option at left guard, their second option at left tackle. They're kind of talking like they want to bench their right tackle and Terrence Steele in favor of Jason Peters, who they seemingly signed to play left tackle. But now because their first round pick rookie had a great one game, performance, now all of a sudden they're willing to plant him there and move Jason Peters over. So, I mean, theoretically, I agree with you, but theoretically, none of this matters because the Cowboys don't, use both of their running backs. People are kind of dragging Tony Pollard this week because, hey, look, he finally got some touches, didn't pick up yards. That game was a disaster. Like, it wasn't a fair opportunity for Tony Pollard. And beyond that, I mean, the Cowboys insist on, triple option reverse pitches to incorporate Tony Pollard. Just hand him the ball. Just hand him the ball. They do not believe in utilizing fast, special, dynamic players. And another example of that, because, hey, you got to run the ball. You got to get creative. I'm sure you guys heard the name Kevontae Turpin.
Mm-hmm.
Had 2 return touchdowns in the preseason. They're going to use him, guys. Watch out. They're going to use him on offense. 0 offensive touches against the Buccaneers last week. So, I mean, they want to live and die by feeding Zeke, and maybe that works, but there is a mountain of evidence and data to suggest that it won't. But, hey, maybe they are the 1 out of 100 again.
We are talking to SB Nation Blogging the Boys editor-in-chief, RJ Ochoa. RJ, Mike McCarthy, you mentioned him just a few moments ago. This could be his final year because there's a guy lurking in the woods or in the bushes named Sean Payton. He is a guy that Jerry Jones loves very, very much. He's a guy that the Cowboys have been looking to bring in for years, even when he took that extension with the Saints. What have you heard over the last couple of weeks with Mike McCarthy's job? And is he on, the plank right now? And is he going to jump if he doesn't get this team in the playoffs this year?
I'm not the biggest Mike McCarthy fan. I mean, obviously last year was impressive, but the team really adopted this kind of bad energy, complaining about officials and things like that, and that really stemmed from him. And look, the guy's got a Super Bowl ring, right? Like, he can walk and talk in ways that a lot of people can't in this industry. So while I'm not a big fan of his, I feel greatly for him on a human level. I mean, he was put in such a difficult position this year with the way the Cowboys built this roster. I mean, Chris Collinsworth was dragging their team building philosophy on the broadcast. Name a team where that happens. Name a team where they're so openly questioned by the world. There's not a person out there who is like, you know what, guys, this was the right way to go. You understand what's happening here. So I feel for Mike McCarthy. The Sean Payton thing is really just fodder, but it's fodder the Joneses have created by their interest in him. So while they can say everything they want, I mean, you mentioned that Sean is lurking in the shadows. I disagree. Sean knows what he's doing. Sean knows the game. Last week, Sean, in previewing the Cowboys-Buccaneers game, went on Kay Adams' a new show, and said Dan Quinn is awesome. Threw a lot of praise around for Dan. Didn't mention Kellen Moore's name. Didn't mention Mike McCarthy's name. Sean knows how to dance. I mean, and I don't even know that I believe Sean wants the Cowboys job, because why would you? Mm-hmm. If you're somebody who believes that the Cowboys are sabotaging their Super Bowl winning head coach in the name of bringing somebody else in, why would you want to get in bed with that? But what I do believe is that Sean Payton wants another job. Maybe that's the Dallas job if it becomes available. And I believe that connecting yourself to the Dallas Cowboys is a profitable thing. We see a lot of players do that in free agency, and they wind up getting the bag elsewhere. Zadarius Smith was one of the people who did it this offseason before he signed in Minnesota. They even said on the broadcast between the Vikings and Packers game that he specifically wanted to go to Minnesota for the opportunity to play the Packers twice. So why did we hear rumblings that he was connected to the Cowboys? To up the price tag that the Vikings had to play. That's just, kind of the way this thing goes. And so I don't know how this goes for McCarthy. I don't. If I simulated this 1,000 times, I think it goes poorly 1,000 times. There's just not a way that he climbs his way out of this.